Hi guys, I'm Kendall Hoeft. I am a transformational freedom life coach specializing in authenticity, joy, and freedom. Today I'm going to talk about a topic that I am extremely passionate about. If any of you have been to therapy or counseling, you understand that an understanding of your family of origin is a way to access transformation or understand yourself better and see the ways that the things that happened to you in your childhood, the ways you were treated, what that taught you, or what you're believing about yourself based on your family of origin. So I want to talk about one quality of a dysfunctional family, and first of all, they focus on this needy family member. There's usually this attention-seeking family member, and this could be an alcoholic, a drug addict, a rageaholic, a workaholic, a dad with a temper, a stern dad. This could be a religious addiction, a gambling. Like oftentimes there's a compulsion there. And so everyone is now focused on this person. In my family, it was the patriarch. And I'm not trying to share family details. At the same time, I am called into service for other people, and the only way that others can relate to me is if I share my story. And so that is the reality, is that I'm very open, I'm very vulnerable, and I want to share my experience so that y'all can be inspired and encouraged, and you can begin to transform your thoughts, your mind, and your life. So in my family, it was, I'm not going to mention names, but it was the patriarch. And it was, we've got to make this person happy. And this person has all the control. And it's all about doing what this person wants so that, he doesn't get angry today, so that he doesn't criticize me today, so that he doesn't attack something about me today. And so you're kind of walking on eggshells, really trying to be perfect. In my case, it was really perfectionism. I'm just going for it. My grandpa was an engineer, and he educated us a lot of the time. We were kind of partly raised with them. And if you messed up, it was almost like being with a nun or something. Like if you messed up, he would harshly criticize, and he would say, careless mistakes, you've got to double check it. Like, just kind of, there was no positive feedback. There was only criticism. And I got attacked for who I was many times. I got attacked for being sensitive. If I ever wanted to express my feelings, I was told, that didn't hurt you. You're not sad. Be happy. You're too sensitive. You're never going to make it in the world. And I was just there was a limitation placed on the expression of feelings. And that's another attribute. I'm looking down at my notes here. It's another quality of a dysfunctional family, is that they place a limitation on the feelings. So it says here, I'm going to read a little bit from this text. The message may be nonverbal, but nevertheless persuasive. A look of stern disapproval. Avoiding the feelings. The expression of unacceptable feelings may be ignored as a way of communicating that these feelings are not permitted in this family. And so what does this tell the child? This tells the child that my feelings are not important. My feelings don't matter. I don't have a right to feel pain. I'm not allowed to feel. And this is why I want to get vulnerable. And, I'm sorry to any family members that are offended, but, I am a stand for expression of feelings in my life. I am a stand for honesty and openness of expression. And I encourage open talk about obvious problems. I'm not a big fan of we don't talk about it. I'm not a big fan of secrets and shame and hiding. I am a big fan of openness and vulnerability and sharing. And I want to talk openly about some of these things that are going on in so many families, but we just don't talk about it. That's not my jam. My jam is to communicate so that people will have help and hope and awareness in these circumstances so that we can better understand ourselves and our families. With this being said, I want you viewers to understand that I've forgiven all of these family members that I'm going to mention. And we have pretty darn good relationships today. And so there is hope, and I'm okay, and it's okay. But I'm going to talk to these common scenarios that I see happening in dysfunctional families. Okay, so the child learns to live through the feelings of whoever that primary person is. So, in my case, my grandpa didn't really have feelings, and so I wasn't allowed to feel them, And when he was sad, I felt sad. When he was disappointed, I felt ashamed in myself. When he was proud of me, I felt happy and I felt joyful. And it was like I learned to live life through the approval of my grandpa, through the approval of my grandma, through the approval of my parents. And I really lived for these authority figures. I lived for these adult figures in my life. I lived for their approval. And I find myself, I'm in my 30s. I find myself still feeling like even making this video, I'm going to be disapproved of. I feel like I'm still worried about the judgment of my parents, my grandparents, and people that I looked up to as a child. And I'm breaking through that, and I'm standing in my own truth. I'm standing in my identity, and I'm really, really proud of who I am. I've 100% accepted my sensitivity. I cry, I express, I encourage people more than anyone I've ever met. I'm awesome. I'm awesome in my sensitivity. I'm sweet and I'm tender and I'm loving and I'm kind. And I don't watch violent movies, and I don't listen to any violent talk, any graphic, even medical stuff. I don't expose myself to that because I'm so sensitive. I'm highly sensitive, and it allows me to be empathetic and caring and sympathetic, and it's just an incredible quality. So I hope that you can look into a mirror or even a Facebook Live video like I just did and honestly talk about how awesome you are. I hope that you can say, I am so awesome, and here's why. It's quite a challenge for some, and doing it in a Facebook Live video is kind of the next level because many will say, oh, well, she's talking about how awesome she is, and they'll judge, which isn't right, isn't good and healthy to judge one another, and they'll perceive that as pride instead of a healthy self-view and a healthy confidence. So, all right, let's get back to the dysfunctional family origin. Okay, so as you evaluate your family, begin to go through these qualities of a dysfunctional family. Did your family focus on one member of the family who it was all about him or her, and they controlled the family with their mood swings and their addictions and their needs and their compulsions? Did your family place limits on the honest expression of feelings? Were there certain feelings that were allowed? Oh, yeah, you're allowed to be happy. You're allowed to be cheerful. You're allowed to be a good little girl. But don't you dare express disappointment. Don't you dare express grief. Don't you dare express anger. Don't you dare express anything negative. And that's why even today, while I'm a big fan of positive thinking, I'm also a big fan of honesty. And I'm a big fan of, yeah, that shit hurt. And I can say that. And I can feel that. And I can be in the moment. Now, I'm not going to stay there. I'm not going to stay in anger. I'm not going to stay in grief. I'm not going to stay in all these things. But I 100% am going to feel them. I 100% am going to feel and express my emotions. I'm going to be honest about them, and I will not suppress them. Because when you start to suppress your feelings, that leads to the creation of addiction. That leads to these characters who are alcoholics, drug addicts, rageaholics, work addicts, sex addicts, eating disorders, spending, gambling addicts, religion addicts. Addiction often comes out of coping with suppression. And I'm going to be real vulnerable, and I'm going to share one way that I do that I have struggled with this. So I have all these feelings, right? And I'm not allowed to share them. And I don't mean just expressing my thoughts. I don't, oh, I'm a Republican. Oh my gosh, I can't tell anybody I voted for Trump because I'm an artist and people will judge me, blah, blah, blah. Or I'm pro-life, or I love cornrows and I'm a white girl, or I don't know, just things people judge you for. And it's like, so instead of being free-flowing and honest and truthful and expressive and not holding back ourselves, I feel the need to, I don't feel free in that. I don't want to be judged. I don't want to be criticized. So I try to make myself feel less. And one of the ways that I've done that in my life is through alcohol. When I drink alcohol, I feel peaceful. I feel calm. Basically, I don't care. I don't care as much. Not only do I not care about doing and saying what I actually want, like if I'm drinking at an Irish pub, I'll likely be more apt to dance. Now, this isn't in the present per se. I'm not saying I'm over all alcohol temptation. I'm just saying in the present, I'm being very intentional to say, I'm afraid of this thing. I don't need alcohol. I don't need anything. I'm going to dance in public. I'm going to face my fear. I'm going to work through this. I'm going to grow. I'm going to be a stronger person. So that's the present. But I'm just sharing with you how from about age 24 to about age 30, I've used alcohol on and off to make me feel less. I had so many feelings. I wanted to move. I wanted to sing. I wanted to show up as who I am. I wanted to be the little silly child that I feel like. And I was afraid of society. I was afraid that I would be rejected. And I was misunderstood many times. And it was just too hard to be myself. And so what do? You can numb yourself. You can dull yourself. You can suppress you're already suppressed. But if you don't want to feel the pain of your own containment, the pain of your own suppression, the pain of your own crippling, then you just drink and dull your senses. And then you don't have to feel. Whether it's good or bad, nothingness sometimes feels more comforting than an abundance of powerful emotions, abundance of powerful drive and passion and feelings. And so I think that that's just so sad. It's terribly sad, and it comes from fear. It comes from a family of origin that placed limits on the expressions of feelings. I remember there was a cakewalk at my school, and you walk square to square with the numbers, and there was music playing, and I thought instead of walking boringly square to square, like, I'm going to dance. Like, there's music. And I remember a person in my family saying, oh, don't do that. Like, people will think you're on drugs. Like, don't be so crazy. And just being criticized for this beautiful part of me, being really not just criticized, but as a child, really being taught, really being brainwashed, really being educated that that freedom, isn't right. Yuck. That expression is too much. And these are lies. And these are things that I'm working through now in my early 30s to retrain my mind and to say, I'm okay. I'm okay, and I'm worthy, and I'm fabulous just how I am. And I'm a person that dances when I feel the music, just like a little 4-year-old would if he was at a jazz concert. I'm a person that says I love you. I'm a person that encourages a random stranger. I'm a person that's empowered and able to show up as who I am. And that's good. And it's a light in the world. And so are you guys. So I just want to help release you and free you into being your full expression, to not hold back, to not limit and suppress yourself. Okay, so the family of origin, it often fails to provide appropriate nurture for developing children. So, for example, when I was too loud in public, or when I danced, or when I expressed my feelings, if there was any negative feeling, I wasn't encouraged. You know what I'm saying? I was kind of shut down in that. And so that wasn't right. My family ideally should have supported. Now, some of them did. So I'm not trying to say like my whole family was this way, but some of the key influential figures in my life did not approve of my feelings, did not approve of my sensitivity, did not approve of my expression, did not approve of my creativity, did not approve of my loudness, and some of these really essential qualities to who I am. I'm just now starting to really reclaim them and be loyal to who I am, and to accept myself and give myself permission, give myself, the little girl inside, the permission that I never received from these figures in my life. So sometimes when we're looking at the past and we're trying to consider our family of origin, we're trying to understand, was my family dysfunctional? And how and in what ways did that affect me? Sometimes there's a shame that comes up in that. And it's the shame of, good children honor their parents. My parents had their faults, but they loved me. And this idea of, it's the same freaking idea that we're only allowed to be honest about what is good. We're only allowed to be honest about other people's strengths. And then ironically, we're only allowed to be honest about our weaknesses. Like, I'm not allowed to tell you how awesome I am because that's prideful. And I'm a fan of full spectrum honesty. I'm a fan of saying, yes, my parents and my grandparents were great in X, X, and X. Like, in these ways, they were fantastic. In these opportunities, absolutely. I can acknowledge that. I'm not going to throw the baby out with the bathwater. But in these ways, these were weaknesses. I was suppressed. I wasn't validated in the ways that I should have, could have been as a child. And so we always feel this obligation when we're talking about negative realities. We always feel this obligation to then add the good. Like, to be like, yada, 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 but. And, I free you from that, because we don't have to always talk about the good. Sometimes we're talking about the bad, and we're going to get in it, and we're going to feel it, and we're going to be real about it. And I think a lot of times when we feel this obligation to then go, yes, but they tried their best, or yes, but they had good intentions, or yes, they were just trying to be helpful, we almost dismiss this negative reality. We almost don't acknowledge it, because we're just like, as though their good intentions are an excuse for being criticizing, controlling, and manipulative. Like, that does not excuse the behavior. Like, their good intentions does not excuse the reality that negative thing happened to you as a child. So I think it's good to really acknowledge these negative thoughts. I mean, in order to deal with them, in order to be honest about ourselves, our childhood, who we are, who our parents were, who our grandparents were. I say grandparents a lot because I was raised by my parents, but I was kind of almost half raised by my grandparents. So we went to school with them, and like, they homeschooled us, and they were a large part of my life. So I almost have like two sets of parental figures. So when it talks about like a father figure, like, my own father was more tender and sensitive and empathetic, but I have this other character. And so sometimes I realized that when I was in therapy, like, some of the daddy issues that I had didn't make sense because of how my dad was. But then I realized, like, there's this other character that influenced me. And the same with the mother. Like, my grandma and my mom are pretty much opposites. In some ways they're the same, in that they both have a heightened sense of morality and this obligation to, like, take on the world and injustices and get involved and that sort of thing. But anyway, in other ways they're very different. My mom's a lot more laid back, and she's a lot more into free expression, singing and dancing in public and that sort of thing. So, ew, there's a cockroach on the floor. I'll deal with you later. So yes, reasons for not acknowledging. Hi, Maria. Reasons for not acknowledging negative thoughts about the family is, if I say or think bad things about my family, I'll betray them. If I say or think bad things about my family, I will feel ashamed. Well, then that's a shame that we need to deal with, and we need to free ourselves from. We need to say, I need to acknowledge negative aspects. I need to acknowledge the truth and the reality about my family of origin. And basically, I have a right to be honest. I have a right to be truthful in all things, but definitely about these people. All families have strengths and weaknesses. Even the best families have problems, and it's okay to address them. And one of the traits in a dysfunctional family is this no talk rule. Like, we're not allowed to talk about it. And I rebel against that rule. I refuse to abide by that rule. So if you're in my family, don't say anything to me, or don't do anything to me that you don't want me expressing if it helps another individual. Like, I want my voice to go out, and I want to encourage and I want to inspire other people. I want people to know that, they're not alone. Like, I'm not a fan of keeping secrets. I'm not a fan of things appearing okay outwardly when there's problems and we have to be ashamed of our problems. Like, I'm not ashamed of my weaknesses. I'm not ashamed of my behaviors. I'm not ashamed of anything. I have zero shame, and that's because my identity is resting in Jesus Christ, and he told me that I'm good. He told me that I'm perfect and I'm righteous and I'm holy and I'm awesome. And it's not based on my good works or my behavior. It's based on the gift of Jesus Christ and his work on the cross and his payment for my sins. And so I'm covered. I'm good. I'm a white, spotless, pure, innocent lamb without blemish or spot. My sins are as far as the east is from the west. Hi, Sadie. So this whole idea of feeling embarrassed or feeling shame or wanting to hide, I reject that. And I'm really into, I don't like the no talk rule that helps create the appearance that everything is okay. If things are really okay, then that's great to celebrate that. But if they're not, let's deal with it. Let's be real and let's work it out, So you must be willing to break this no talk rule. You must be willing to go into your maybe painful past and look at the family of origin and ask yourself if it has these qualities of a dysfunctional family. Were your feelings suppressed as a child? Were you not allowed to be who yourself? Were you discouraged from open talk about obvious problems? Was there this we can't talk about it, don't talk about it, shush, 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 hush tones, put it under the rug, put it under the carpet? That's dysfunctional. Healthy families have open communication. Healthy families have loving spaces where they can express their feelings and they can be heard and they can be loved and they can be accepted in that moment. And there's not tension and there's not judgment and there's just understanding and there's just growth and there's just, mutual understanding and an opportunity to love each other more deeply. So conflict doesn't have to be this scary argument, yell out fight. It can genuinely be someone, I'm feeling this. Can you help me with it? And then two teammates can work toward a common goal with a primary purpose of understanding, with a primary purpose of hearing your partner's feelings and letting them know that you understand them and just validating them in their feelings, because a feeling can't be right or wrong. It's just a feeling. It's either aligned with truth or it's not, but it's just a feeling. We don't have to be afraid of our feelings. They are good little tools to help us discern and decipher where we're at emotionally and what's going on under the surface so that we can actually work things out to have healthy, happy, and whole lives. So anyway, I just wanted to encourage you guys with that. And I'm Kendall Hoeft. I am a transformational life coach. You can reach me on my website at www.facebook.com/Kendall Hoeft. Thanks for listening. Bye.